Hey, Sean here from SpeedCubeReview.com. For those who are new to the channel, I do a mega comparison every year on the first of the year usually. So I go through all the major puzzles and compare them, a mega comparison. Well, this year I ended up moving pretty much at the new year, so I didn't have time to make a video then. And a week later I started school. I'm getting a master's in music, so I didn't have time to do any of this. And I've been delaying it because I want to make sure I have a quality video and put out what I have been wanting to put out, but I can't do that. I was going to do it during spring break. This is spring break for me, even though it's snowing outside right now. And I still don't have time. I don't have time to do what I want to do, which is make a separate video where I go in detail, in depth, comparing all of the major puzzles. Usually what I do in the past, I've measured the weights of them and did a few different tests and really shown in detail the structure comparing each puzzle. So there's a couple options I've thought of. Either I don't do it at all, or I have it done a few months from now, or I make a smaller, more condensed version where I at least give my thoughts on puzzles, and I think I'm going to go that route. So I'm going to call this Mega Comparison Abridged Edition. And this might actually work out better because halfway through the year, often people want me to make a new one, and I don't want to make too many of these mega comparisons, but if I make an abridged edition, maybe this will work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with 2x2, 3x3, go through all the way up to 7x7, then talk about Skewb and Pyraminx and Square One, maybe not in that exact order for those last ones, but I'm going to go through those, talk about the main puzzles, and then just give my general thoughts on it, because since I've tried almost every single puzzle on the market, I can give a pretty good description of how I feel they might be. So I'm going to show you the major ones, talk about them a little bit, and then kind of talk about what would be a good one to purchase if you wanted to buy a puzzle. Now, I'm not going to talk about every single puzzle. If you're interested in that, check out last year's mega comparisons. I really went in depth on pretty much every puzzle out there, even ones that aren't really in production too much anymore. I'm going to make this one a bit more focused for a couple reasons. One is that a lot of them you just can't get anymore, like the Kong's Design Meiying, or maybe they're just not seen as a top-of-the-line puzzle anymore, like the Diane Zanchi. Other ones are not going to be in production anymore, such as the GAN UM, because now the SM is the main one, the GTS version 1, because the GTS 2 is the major one, and they actually have said they're not going to produce the version 1 anymore, unless there's some weird special edition that comes out. Some puzzles like the Valk 3, there is a Valk Power out now, so I'm going to talk about the Power more than the Valk 3, I might reference it, but things like that. So if I skip anything that you're really interested in, I probably have a separate review on. Or there might be other ones, like YJ has a new, really nice high-end puzzle coming out. I don't know what the cost is going to be, but it's going to try to compete with the other high-end puzzles. And that should be out pretty soon, but I don't have it yet, so I can't include it in here. So bear with me if I don't have the puzzle or it's an older one that you like. There are still reviews, but I'm going to be a little more direct in my thoughts on these things. I'm usually not too direct, and I'm a little more vague, so enjoy this more direct mega comparison abridged edition. So like I said, we're going to start with 2x2. And let me grab a few of these 2x2s. I have a little table here. I'm going to talk about these. Instead of having multiple camera angles, where I can zoom in and do this, I'm going to do this way. Honestly, it's just going to be easier to film. And I'm going to be lazy with this, but I want to make sure you have a nice little table and I don't get things lost and have puzzles down here out of frame, because I'm apparently known for doing that. There's a lot of 2x2s. I have a big pile of them there, although the tower has come down a little bit because I've had to collect these and look through them. Up until about 2 years ago, the Diane 2x2 was the one you'd get. Nothing else really compared to it. There's a lot out there, like a lot from YJ, and there's a lot of budget ones, such as the, from YJ, the UPO, and then there's ones from Moria, like the MF2, MF2C, MF2S, things like that. They're still great puzzles, and what's hard with 2x2 is since it's mainly just corners and the edges and centers are hidden, there's not a huge difference between them. Really, none of them are going to hold you back unless it has squared off centers, or corners, technically. So don't worry too much with 2x2, but the ones that I would really recommend, we still have the Diane 2x2, and I still like it, even though the new plastic, really they don't feel any different, especially after you lubricate them. Qi has a new one out. I believe it's the Wuxia. I'm probably going to butcher all of these Chinese pronunciations. Again, I apologize for that. I'm trying my best to make sure I do the right one, but they have a magnetic version and a non-magnetic. It's very similar to the Yushin White, and I talk about that in that review. If you want to jump to any of the other puzzles, I'm going to have a timestamp in the description. I don't know if I said that in the intro. Guoguan has the Jinghen or Xinghen. Then there's also the Chuwen. There's the Weipo and the GAN 249. Now they all perform very similarly. The GAN 249, in my opinion, doesn't perform quite up to what these other ones do. It does come in magnetic. Right now it is only in stickerless, but I believe there's a stickered version that's going to be coming out very soon. It performs fine. Corner cut's fine. It's a little bit smaller. It's 1 millimeter smaller, but it feels a little more, I almost want to call it just a sandy, scratchy feeling compared to the other ones. The Weipo is probably the most solid of them. It's got just a really thick plastic. This is the only 2x2 that I've actually used N35 4x2 in. Usually I have to use lighter magnets, but the plastic's so thick because of that it feels really stable. Now, about a year ago, I'd say people started feeling like this was almost getting overshadowed by some of the other ones, but I believe the new world record was set on a Weipo. So this is probably what I'd use at a competition just because I like that thick, stable feel to it. Chuwen, not a big fan of just because it's really flexible. If you get one with magnets or put magnets in it, that's going to help that flexibility a lot, but it just feels a bit too flexible, like it doesn't want to keep that cubic shape. Guoguan, I would say the biggest competitor to the Zhanchi. It feels almost closest to that with how light it is and how flowy it is. And this is kind of a good middle of the road. If you really don't know what you want, this is probably the best middle of the road one that isn't too thick, solid feeling or too swooshy, airy feeling. And on that swooshy, airy feeling, that brings me to the new one from Qi. It's very similar to the Yushin White, and I talk about that there, which even has a swooshier, airier feeling. The internals are very thin, and this is one where I know I'm going to miss some of this with having this camera farther away, but you can just hear that it doesn't feel as solid, as thick. This is the only one I'd be worried about with getting the magnetic one. I have never had magnet fall out of a puzzle with me using it, and I've had that happen twice with this one. So I don't know if they fix that. I believe SpeedCubeShop, if they make a cosmic version, they put their own magnets in there. But I like the non-magnetic one. I kind of grabbed this one instead of the magnetic one. So if you're going to buy one, I would say the Xinghen would be the way to go for now from Guoguan. The Weipo, if you want more of a solid feeling to it, but all of these would be perfectly fine. Okay, moving on to 3x3. Now this is kind of going to be the biggest one, the craziest one, just because it's 3x3. That's what everyone uses. And so the GAN SM, of course, the Volk Power, and the GTS version 2. So as I said in the intro, the version 1 actually isn't going to be produced anymore. If you really did like it and you want maybe a backup, find it now before they end up being sold out. The Volk, a lot of people like the original Volk more than the Volk Power. They're extremely similar. The Volk Power is a little bit smoother, a little bit faster, but I'm going to focus on that one just because that's the new one that's out, and you can get it with magnets already installed. This is a fantastic puzzle, and definitely very similar to the other one, maybe a little bit more controllable. There's a lot of good ones from the company Cyclone Boys, and even Dian came out with a new 3x3. And the Dian Zhanchi 2017, I believe, is the official name. This is, I don't know if it's technically a CamCube version or a Cosmic version, but I got it from SpeedCubeShop, and it's magnetic, and I had someone say to me, this is the most stable and wobbly cube they've ever used. That it's really tight, but it still wants to just move around and flex. As much as people, bash this puzzle, my own personal best is with this puzzle. It's, it's a random more lucky solve, but it's definitely not horrible. Shingshou's been doing really well, making some good 3x3. They have the Fengyon, I believe it's called, but the Aurora is the newest one. It's a bit flexible for my taste, but it's definitely more modern design, and you could use that as a main puzzle and be fine with it. I'm also going to talk about some budget puzzles, so I'm going to throw those up here as well. Now, Qi has their Warrior W. I really do like this. What's gonna keep me away from putting it on this table right now is that it's only available in stickerless, in this matte stickerless, and it's great once it's set up, but out of the box, I really didn't like it, and I've heard other people where it just seemed horrible until they set it up. Great puzzle, but I wish they'd come up with a stickered version. So the Yushin Little Magic, MF3 RS version 2, there is the version 1, again, fantastic puzzle, a little flexible, but the version 2 fixes that quite a bit. Again, there have been other puzzles out there like the Yan 3 that have been great. Guoguan has their Yuxiao Pro. I like the old one a little bit more. This is very similar to what the Valk is like. The old one kind of felt like an older style, almost like a light Oolong, and it's, again, fantastic puzzle. There's almost no bad puzzles you could really have here, but I just don't see it as a contender for one of the top ones on the market. And then there's also a couple mini puzzles, such as the Mini Cubing Classroom as well as the Valk Mini, and I'll talk about those at the very end. To kind of go over these puzzles right here, the GAN SM is the lightest of them. It's a really light puzzle. It is also the most expensive, but that price comes with a lot of accessories. You get extra stickers, you get 6 different spring sets on top of the one that already comes in it, so you can really find that springy tension that you like. And it's really easy to tension it because of that GES spring system where they're built into the plastic. Of any of the puzzles that kind of is a comprehensive package of everything, this covers it. It's also the puzzle that Felix Zemdegs currently uses. The Vault Power is very similar in that packaging, where if you get the magnetic version, you get a spare spring set that's a little bit lighter. It does come with extra stickers as well, and it's a nice little middle of the road. I found it too fast. I really had to dump a lot of heavy lubricant into it. It just was almost impossible to use without that, because it was just really fast. So with that heavy lubricant, I did a lot of weight 6 from SpeedCubeShop. It's much faster to turn, it performs much nicer. And with the primary internals and the non-split design, which they've changed, it feels a lot smoother. Not quite as smooth as the SM, but much smoother than the Valk was. But again, that was after a lot of lubricant. So before that, it's really hard to tell with completely dry puzzles. And lastly, in these top 3, we have the Moryu GTS version 2. I just realized it's kind of a similar setup to the last Mega comparison that was the GAN Air, the Valk, and the GTS version 1. I believe those were the 3. Now, this version 2 is smaller. This is 55.5 millimeters, just like the Valk, while the GAN SM is 56 millimeters. It's a 0.5 millimeter difference, but it is noticeable when you're using it. This is probably my favorite feeling puzzle. I added my own magnets. The ones that come in the stock version are a bit light for my taste, so I mixed N35 4x2 with N50 4x2, and it's a bit extra clicky like I like. This is also the lowest price of these 3, with the GAN SM being around $50. The Valk Power, I believe, is in the mid-30s, but this one can be the mid-20s. So definitely much cheaper of those 3, and performs great. Of all 3 of them, I used the GAN SM at the last competition, because when I did a test between the 3, that's the one that I ended up getting the best times with, but it was within fractions of a second, and all 3 you'd have close to the exact same times. If I was to recommend which one is the, best to give as a gift, maybe, the SM, of course, would be that, just because of all the accessories you get, and it's really in a nice package. The Valk and the GTS 2 you can get the exact same times with. I wish one of them would start supplying a small bottle of lubricant with it, just so you can experiment with that, because that's really what all 3 end up missing that I needed to add. If you want to go for more of a budget line, the Yushin Little Magic and the MF3 RS2 are the ways to go. The Yushin Little Magic is the most stable of the bunch. It's kind of similar to the Valk in feeling to me. I added magnets, and of these, I think I like the Yushin Little Magic the most in the budget line. It just has a good all-around feel to it, and has that really good mix of being flexible while also being extremely stable. The MF3 RS2 is also very stable. It has more of a bubbly feel. I find corner cutting lacking just a little bit, but then I also tell people that you don't actually need that much of corner cutting. I tighten my puzzles down so the corner cutting is limited, but I get that more stable feel. I plan in the future to make my own magnetic version of this, so look out for that video in the future. I might just do a live stream. Like I said, I like the stability of this, but the bubbliness of the MF3 RS2 is really nice, and this feels a bit more like a higher end puzzle compared to the Little Magic. Both of these are under $10, and if you get one of those over one of these three, you're not going to be held back as a cuber. Now there are two mini puzzles. There's the Bulk Mini at 4.74 centimeters, and honestly it performs exactly like a Bulk. When I first got it, I thought maybe the mini size would change how it actually performs, but no, it performs exactly like a Bulk, surprisingly so. I put magnets in this, and this is one of my favorite ones to carry around. The 50mm Cubing Classroom, there's also 45mm, as well as a 40, 35, and 30mm puzzle. They all work really well. This one I added my own stickers, and again, magnetized it as well. This is the one I use usually for one-handed. Sometimes I go to that one, but it's a little bit too small sometimes. I'll also use this for two-handed, and this was my backup to the GAN SM when I went to the competition. Even though it is smaller sized, if you get used to it, it does work out fine. So if you want a mini puzzle, this definitely is the one to get. It can be around $5, which makes it a great buy to get a fantastic puzzle that is also good for one-handed. Okay, we're gonna move on to 4x4, and we have the Chi-Yi Wuxue, and this is a magnetic cosmic version. I'm gonna put this front and center because honestly, that is my main choice for anyone looking for a good quality 4x4. It's 62mm, which is a bit big for some people, but it's extremely stable, and while being stable, it also corner cuts fantastically well. I think if you look at almost every major solver, they're using this puzzle right now. The Yushin Blue, I've replaced the stickers on this, is kind of the run-up for the smaller size. It's actually quite a bit smoother. It can be very fast too. A lot of people replace the springs in this as well. The issue I have with this is the internals want to pop a little bit, which really any puzzle that has a higher risk of popping is almost just off my list right now, but it is a good runner-up. Cyclone Boys does have their mini puzzle, and I actually like the Fei Ting or Fei Wu. It's different on a couple different sites. But I magnetized this, and this was my backup at the last competition because it is smaller, but man, it performs exceptionally well. It's a bit flexible, so without magnets, it can be harder to control. Chi does have their mini Thunderclap as well as a full-size one. I haven't tried it with magnets. I've heard it makes it much nicer, but without magnets, it's a bit airy to me, and it doesn't corner cut as well as I would like. I almost would say it's a good competitor to the Yushin Blue, but I like this a lot more. Maybe I do need to try a magnetic version first. If anything, if you have the budget, get the Chi-Yi Wuxue, 100% worth it. Other than that, any of these are fine as well, or even, again, the budget Chi-Yi one. The only thing is it comes in stickerless and has that weird matte finish. Moving on to 5x5. And Chi really has this one locked down as well. So this is the Chi-Yi Wuxue. Again, it's a magnetic cosmic version, and most top solvers will be using this. The other one they might be using, though, is the Yushin. And just like the Yushin Blue, I've magnetized this and replaced the stickers with full fitted. There are some budget ones, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. So the Wuxue, this one is a bit smaller. This one is 62mm, while a lot of the other ones are 63mm. It is extremely stable while being able to corner cut well, just like the 4x4 was. And I've seen people even get 45-degree corner cutting. I'm actually very close to it here. I've never been able to get it before, but that's pretty close right there. I would recommend this one. If you have any question of which one you want to get this one. The Yushin one's not bad, but it's a bit flexible to me. Adding magnets does help, but it still doesn't have that stability that I'd like, especially with a larger puzzle. Moryu, of the ones I'd recommend are actually their budget one, the MF5S, I believe it is. The one that's not the normal, just MF5. And it has a good amount of stability while being able to corner cut a bit. I haven't been a big fan of their other 5x5s, so this one being budget makes it a really good buy, and it's it's kind of hard to pop. If you get the regular MF5, that one's a little bit easier to misalign. So definitely get the one that is not just the MF5, but has that letter after it. And Chi does have the budget one. This one performs quite similarly to the Wushwang. Again, just in stickerless with that matte finish though. Okay, as we go to these higher end puzzles, there's fewer options that I would really recommend. For 6x6, we have the Yushin Red, and we have the Chi Wuhua version 2. There are some other ones on the horizon, such as a new one from X-Man Design, who does things for Chi. There's some from Moryu. There's a Cyclone Boys G6. Now, as far as 6x6, it's gotten so much better in the past couple of years. The G6 works great. There's a couple budget ones that are fine. The Moryu one is fine, but I'm going to talk about the two major ones that I think are going to be the ones that you'd want to decide between if you want to get a high-end one. The Wuhua version 2 is a bit bigger than the Yushin Red. You can even see in the camera right there. Stability, it's really nice. My big issue when I was really getting 6x6 was I was misaligning a lot, and that comes with accuracy, being able to practice with it. This one I felt it was much harder to misalign, so I can keep it on slightly looser tensions. The outside edges are much wider than the Yushin Red, while the internals are pretty similar in size. The Yushin Red, though, being slightly smaller, is a little bit easier to hold on to, and this version has magnets and has a spring swap on it. I ended up using this in the competition just because it felt more comfortable to use, as well as other people who borrowed this and used it. Because it is a little bit easier to misalign, I keep it on tighter tensions. It's not too bad though, because since I can control it more, that balances it out. This can be a bit sluggish if you don't do the spring swap. I don't think it's 100% necessary, but if you're solving in 2-3 minutes, I think you might enjoy changing the springs on it to the Yushin 5x5 springs, and a lot of shops sell those now individually. As far as just how they perform, they're both extremely smooth, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. If you want a budget 6x6, there is one from Moryu, the Cubing Classroom series, but the Cyclone Boys G6 is actually really nice, and I'd recommend it at a more budget price. And lastly, as far as the N-by-N puzzles, we have 7x7. And once again, I'm just going to stick to Chi and Yushin. The Moryu one feels a bit clunky and a bit outdated. I believe they are updating that soon, but at the moment, it's really between these two. The Chi one really does perform well. It has a similar feeling to the other ones they have, and it all around very smooth puzzle. There are some issues people have had with internals breaking. It's not super common, but if you are rough with it, that has been a little bit of an issue. The Yushin 7x7 feels much faster out of the box. I actually do enjoy the speed that this one turns at without having to do much more work. One issue though is that the caps do tend to fall off. If I was to use this one more, I would probably be gluing all of these on. Now its design makes it a little bit harder to make this magnetic, so that's why you see the magnetic Chi one a lot more often. Now, I really don't do 7x7 much at all. I don't plan on doing it at a competition anytime soon, but I'd probably use the Chi one just because I like the feeling of it a little bit more. Any of the budget ones are fine. If you go for the Moryu Cubing Classroom one, definitely get the MF7S, I believe it is. Again, the one that has the letter at the end. If you get the regular MF7, it's a bit larger and can misalign much more easily. So definitely go with that route if you do want a budget one. Let's talk about Megaminx. I've got 3 I'm going to talk about. One is the Shengsho Aurora that I've magnetized. Galaxy from X-Man Design. This is the version 2. And the Moryu I don't know how to pronounce it, but the Moryu one. So a couple things about each of these. The Shengsho, this is actually the Shengsho Pearl, not the Aurora. The Shengsho Aurora is nice, stable, a great upgrade to their old design. The Pearl, when I got it, I didn't like it. It was a bit too flexible, but adding magnets and lubricating it, setting it up, made it really nice. This became the one that I just really enjoyed using. About a week later, I got, I believe this one first, the one from Moryu, and they have these ridges on it, which is really nice. It performs well, and I was like, oh, I don't know which one I like more. And then I got the one from Chi, the X-Man Design. It's smaller than the other ones. At first, I thought it was going to be an issue, but turns out I like it a lot more, and nothing compares to this one. If you don't know which one to get the X-Man Design, the Galaxy version 2. No, I have no other ones I'd recommend. If you want a budget one, Chi and Yushin both have budget ones that are quite nice that I'd recommend, but if price is not an option, definitely get this one. it's the best one out there, without a doubt. Let's talk about Skewb. There's a lot of different Skewbs out there. A lot of them are very, 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 very similar. It's kind of like 2x2. There's only so much you can really do with it. So if you want a budget one, literally you can almost get any of the ones that are out there and they're fine. They usually use ball bearings. Magnets are getting more popular. It doesn't make that big of a difference in how it feels, even how it clicks. So the two major ones are the one from X-Man Design and the Moryu one. As you can kind of see just looking at this, the X-Man Design one is concave, and that makes a huge difference. The way a Skewb turns is a little bit awkward sometimes to hold, and I highly recommend this one if you're getting into it. The one thing the Moryu has over us is just its speed. The click is not as strong, and you can be a bit fast with it. So if you're fine controlling a Skewb and you just want something that's really fast, this one does work great. And you can hear the magnets a lot more. I believe that's because they're a little bit looser in there, so they're actually clicking. While this one, you just sort of hear as the puzzle clicks into place and not the magnets themselves moving around. I would be using this one at a competition, but if you want one that's a bit faster, the Moryu one would be the way to go. We have Pyraminx, and again, I'm just going to bring out two of them, the Moryu one, and again, the X-Man Design. You can sort of see a little bit of trend here. Some of the other ones that are out on the market, such as the budget ones from the Moryu's Cubing Classroom series, the Yushin Little Magic, the budget Chi-Yi one, Cyclone Boys, they're all fine. They all work great, and they're all pretty similar in how they function. Sometimes some are a little bit looser, some a little bit tighter, but none of them I feel like are terrible that you should immediately avoid. There are maybe a couple I did some reviews on, but those are like the lowest end budget ones that are, I think there's one from YJ that I just really didn't like, because I don't even think it had ball bearings in it. Both of these use magnets, and the Moryu one, kind of how the Skewb was, is much faster and looser. So to the point where you can hear the magnets, but even on the tips, I barely feel any sort of click into place. With the X-Man Design one, the bell is what it's called, it's so strong it'll almost align itself. Not enough to where it's going to do a move on its own, but it's really strong click. And then same thing here. I personally like the bell. I'm a little bit slower of a Pyraminx solver. I think my best at a competition, although I think I only have done it twice, it was around 7 seconds. I like the bell just because it is a little bit more controllable. If you want the more controllable feel, definitely go with this. If you feel like you can handle the faster speed and less click, then definitely the Moryu one might be the way to go with that. As far as the final official WCA puzzles, we have Square One. Now there's two from Chi-Yi that is just the regular Chi Square One, as well as the one from X-Man Design that is called the Volt, and this one is a Cosmic Edition as well. Moryu does have one, but it just does not perform the same, and these two are kind of the big deciding factors. They perform very differently. The middle layers on the regular Chi one are thinner, while the Volt is thicker, and the Volt is much more controllable. So it has much more of a stable feel to it, and if you want something that is a little bit more control out of the box, that'd be the way to go. The Chi one is much faster and much more flexible. So if you want that more fast and flexible, this one's the way to go. But these are the only two that I'd recommend as a high-end one to get. Now, this is a long video, but I also ran through things really fast and just said some short opinions on everything instead of the in-depth video. Now, a lot of people complain that they didn't have the mega comparison, and some people are going to be bummed that this isn't the full in-depth video that they might have been waiting for, while other people might be happy that I'm actually getting a video out to you guys. So not really much I can say to that. I apologize if this is not what you're looking for, but I feel like I need to get this video out there and as best as I can talk to you guys about what I would recommend in today's cubing world. So that's about it. That's all the major ones really out there. I did skip a lot, and especially with 3x3, I mean, there's also the X-Men Tornado, which is a fantastic puzzle. The Maying's still a fantastic puzzle. There's a lot of them that if you have any of a puzzle that came out a few years back, you're fine. I mean, you don't need to buy a new one. but I'm probably the last person to say you don't need to buy another puzzle. I'm hoping this video helps. If there's anything you have questions on that you want me to go over, first check to see if I already have a video review of it. I'll probably be saying the exact same thing, but let me know. I do watch all the comments that come in, so let me know if you do have any questions on a puzzle, or if you want me to go a little more in depth on any of that. I can see what I can do. I might be a little away from my computer right as this comes out, so I might not answer right away, but I will do my best to answer everyone's questions, and hopefully I will have a more detailed, in-depth video in the future on each individual one. So thank you very much for watching. Please hit like and subscribe for more content like this in the future, and as always, stop by SpeedCubeReview.com for more news and reviews. There are some other ones on the horizon. There are some other ones on the horizon. As far as the last official WCA puzzle, we have Skewb. Nope, that's not a Skewb.